What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another NFL Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. I'm your host, Spread Astaire, today, flying solo. So you know what that means. Chat, I'm going to need you. Go ahead and chime in, give me stuff to bounce some ideas off of. But I'll tell you what, had a lot of fun watching the NFL weekend, and I got plenty of takes for you guys. So what we usually like to do is we review what happened over the weekend, and then we'll go into a quick preview for this evening games. I'll give out a pick on the side and the total, and find a prop or two for everybody. So that will be the agenda. We talked about the Niners falling to the Titans on Friday, so let's move into what we saw on Christmas Day, and let's start with the Browns and the Packers. And once again, I felt like this was a lot of fun for me, because I've been saying all year, you can't give this guy Baker Mayfield an extension. And it almost felt like he just rolled out a whole 3-hour video of why I was correct in that place. Now, I know it's rough this year because, you can't fire a guy unless you know who you're going to move on to. So, of course, that's there. But I think if you're a Browns fan or you're Browns front office, you're kidding yourself if you really think that this guy is going to get you to the penultimate goal. And if you look at the rest of the roster that they've just constructed, now, yes, they've fallen off a little bit at wide receiver, but I think they can add to that. This is not a bad draft for wide receivers. And of course, they do become available in free agency as teams make tough salary cap decisions. The idea that you're going to continue to go with Baker Mayfield after this year is just rough. Even a stopgap to try and move into next year. You got to think that they're going to be big swingers if some of these guys like Russell Wilson or maybe Aaron Rodgers do become available in free agency. But I think you got to do something different. I mean, the way that he threw away that game in the first half was just, let's just be honest, it was disgusting. And that's your number one pick. I mean, I seriously can't abide by that. Now, of course, he's playing hurt, and I made proclamations before and been wrong. But, the fact remains that he's not going to get you over the top. They've done a good job with the rest of the roster, trying to give them a quarterback worthy of their play. Now, let's not take everything away from the Packers. Packers 12-3, number one seed in the NFC. That's going to help a lot because we know how tough Lambeau is to play. I think their defense looks better than ever, and Rodgers just gets it done when it matters. So, the only thing I would say on the Packers, to set up for this show, I listened to a lot of podcasts, seeing who, what other people are thinking to kind of, give me takes, to talk about, respond to, react to. And one of them was that Matt LaFleur was going to be the coach of the year. And I'm just thinking that's wrong. It's so easy to be the coach of Aaron Rodgers, who, number one, is going to make any play call you look better, because even if the defense covers it right, he can zing the balls in there and make tough plays, those tight window throws. Rodgers can do that. So your play calling doesn't have to be as good. Not to mention, when you send in the wrong play, he can just audible out of it because he's Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play, understands the game, understands the coverages he's facing, and I think he makes any coach look so good. So I would think that it would be better for another guy to get it. Now, I'm not discounting him and saying he's done a great job. I'm just saying I don't necessarily consider him a coach of the year, considering some of the other jobs these candidates are doing. You know who's fallen out of that, right? Is Cliff Kingsbury. Let's talk about that one. The Cardinals fall to 10-5 with the loss over the Colts. And there's not a few skill players that really matter. But I'll tell you what, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and DeAndre Hopkins are some of those men, right? And we look at this team without DeAndre Hopkins. We look at the way that Kyler Murray's playing without DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup. And it's not, surprising to me that once again they fell. A very exciting game there towards the end. You have to give Kyler credit for how versatile he is, his ability to move, make plays. But without Hopkins there, right, this is an average receiving corps. You got Kirk and Rondale Moore to make your big plays. A.J. Green can come through, but he's not like DeAndre Hopkins where I can rely on him to get open every single third down. A great running back core. Chase Edmonds played great, of course. But overall, this team basically rests on the health of one man, DeAndre Hopkins. So as fun as it is to count out the Cardinals right now, I do believe that when he comes back, all of a sudden this team's got a chance to make some noise, make some moves. But the question is, how far are they going to fall before he comes back? So I think that's something to keep an eye on. And I usually, football is a team game, 53 men on the roster, 46 men suit up every week. And I hate to simplify it to one player, but I do believe this is the case where you can do it. I see my guys in the chat. Okie, what is up? Nick DePalmo's got a question of who's getting the Lattimore treatment tonight. We'll go to that at the end. We'll do a quick recap right now. Guys, feel free to throw in your thoughts on anything I'm saying right now, and we can talk. Merry Christmas, Fred. Thank you, Richie. I hope everyone had a happy holiday. I know that I did. It was very enjoyable. And Richie wants to know if he's going to be back for the playoffs. Right now, it's unknown, but I know it's possible. He's not listed as out for the year. So looking for him to come back, and maybe the Cardinals can turn things around. But I'll tell you what, they're in a free fall right now. That's definitely going to be tough for this team to contend with, basically. So cool. I'm glad I spent a lot of time yesterday watching the NFL because I'll tell you what, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So what's another game we talked about? The Bengals. They absolutely destroyed the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Burrow goes over 500 yards. The winning lineup on that DK Millimaker was essentially a Bengals stack. The guy had Burrow, Mixon, Higgins, and Chase. So he had four Bengals on the squad, and that was the guy that took home the million. So congratulations to him. I went with Herbert against the Texans, and I was pretty disappointed in that. We'll get to that later. But let's just talk about the Bengals and the Ravens quick. I mean, the Ravens are so decimated. You can't really count them out. This could happen to any team, any well-run team, any well-managed organization, and that's just the way that it goes. I thought that with Tyler Huntley, the three-point line was about correct. I like the Bengals there regardless, but I thought it was going to be a great game, right? Josh Johnson, right? I mean, we've seen what he can do before, journeyman, but obviously not able to get it done against the top tier. That is a good showing by the Bengals defense, and you have to be excited for the Bengals moving forward. But we will see, okay, we beat up on a decimated team. Let's see how far this team's really come, because to be honest, their season win total at the beginning of the year was 6.5. So nobody expected this from the team. They've already exceeded expectations. So now it's kind of a case of how high can you fly when you're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals. And right now you have to say that they can fly pretty high. So excellent win there for Cincinnati, and congratulations for those of you who had them in your fantasy lineups, because on DraftKings, like I said, the Bengals stack got it done. The Bills. So this was a great game. The Bills beat the Patriots 33-21, and I thought this was a great game because it was two top teams, right? We didn't have to watch the New York Giants, right? It wasn't the Bears versus the Seahawks. It was a game that meant a lot, and we talked about how, wow, that was a great win for the Patriots. But of course, it was crazy conditions, and it didn't really teach us more about who these teams are. In this game, I thought we have a much better idea of who they are. And this was actually one of the few games I got wrong. Maybe it's another reason I'm in a great mood. Like most of my picks hit this weekend, but I did miss this game. My handicap was that, hey, the Bills knew the run was coming last time. They couldn't stop it. Why are they going to be able to this time? And they said, hey, we're just not going to stop the run. We'll outscore you. Your defense isn't that good. We have Josh Allen, and they put up 33 points. As good as Mac Jones is, he's not really he's not the guy you want to get a shooter with right now, especially without these weapons, right? We talked about how much DeAndre Hopkins means to Kyler Murray. I think the Patriots are in need of that guy that he can go to in third down. It doesn't have to be a wide receiver, even a tight end like Gronk used to be for Brady. But the thing is, they have no guys they can count on that will get open all the time on third down. And I think that really causes the offense to sputter, puts a little too much pressure on Jones, who's not a guy, and he never will be a guy that's like Aaron Rodgers that can get the stuff, can get it in, in a tight window, tough situation, make unbelievable throws that only his receiver can make, right? He's not that guy. So let's get him weapons. We know he can hit guys when they're wide open, and that's who Mac Jones is. What a great win for Buffalo, though, for them to be able to come back and really put their stamp on the season. They're both 9-6 right now. I think Buffalo has the tiebreak, though, because their division record is 4-1. The Patriots fall to 3-2 in division. If I'm wrong on that, correct me in the chat, but that's the way I thought that the division looks right now. Bills in the division lead, which will be crucial. And of course, at a time, when they were in danger of falling out of the playoffs, they get 2 big wins in a row. Give credit to the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is back. And you know what's great about Josh Allen? That big arm is set up for December and January, right? I mean, it's great when these guys put up all these numbers in September and October, but Josh Allen's, his skills translate. He's going to be able to get it done. Scott Mack, I think Buffalo led the entire game. That is true. That is true. Real quick on the back one, Richie Smalls going back to that Ravens game. Ravens of old would try to take Burrow out for keep him in the game up that much. Yeah, and then he threw that pass. He was looking over there. Definitely was hearing some of the stuff they were saying about him during the week. But, hey, I like these rivalries in the NFL, and I think we can use a little more of that. Let's move on to the next game. The Falcons got it done against the Lions, but they didn't cover the spread. I mean, okay. Falcons played the Lions. I don't really have a lot to say about this game. If you do, put it in the chat, and we'll go back. Another one that was just like whatever. The Jets beat the Jaguars. Okay, good for them. I actually had that one on at the end. I was rooting for Trevor Lawrence. I'd like the Jaguars to be good. They just aren't. He had a chance down there at the end of the game, couldn't get it done. I thought it was a good experience for him, but boy, against the Jets, you'd like to see, your rookie quarterback with all this potential, even be able to make those plays. A little disappointing, but let's not really take too much away from that. 2 young quarterbacks in terrible situations. On this day, Zach Wilson was better. Let's talk about the biggest upset of the morning slate. Morning if you're on the West Coast, the 1 p.m. games for you East Coasters. The Chargers, man. What a letdown. I mean, as a Raiders fan, for me, it was great. Open the door. Right? How do you lose this game if you're the Los Angeles Chargers? Justin Herbert, 336 yards, but only 1 TD. Couldn't get it done in the red zone. And once again, I mean, okay, so I know Brandon Staley's cool. I know that he gives the great press conferences, and he led the number 1 defense in the NFL. But I got to wonder, you're this great defensive coach. You can't get your team to just stop the run. I mean, it's not like the Texans are the running juggernaut either, right? They're not like the healthy Colts with that awesome offensive line and Jonathan Taylor back there, right? I mean, this is an average to below average offensive line, average to below average running backs, and you just let them run all over you like that. And I've thought about this for a little while, and I was wondering if this was going to be one of the latest changes in the NFL. So, 20 years ago, and I'm an old guy, I always harken back to that, right? But your middle linebacker, you would never put them in coverage. They were usually big, strong dudes that could shed blocks and tackle. They had great tackling ability, and they had the ability to shed blocks from anyone that wasn't one of the best offensive linemen in the league, right? So, and we always, Greg Beaker, Matt Millen, right? Those type of guys, right? We've gone away from that, and it makes sense because defensive coordinators wanted more flexibility within their back seven, so to speak. The linebackers and the secondary, the guys in coverage, they wanted more flexibility. They wanted to use everyone. Why? It allowed them to blitz better, allowed them to disguise coverages. And with all the new rules, why, if everyone's passing every down, I don't really need that run stuff, right? Certain teams have realized, hey, if you're going to put 3 basically safeties out there playing linebacker, right, because you need them for coverage, I'm going to run. Because a lot of times my fullback, my tight end, my lead blocker, he's crushing this guy. And I'm getting huge, huge gains. And that's what I saw here. And that's how the Texans were able to win. Couple nice things for the Texans, right? We've talked about it almost every week on the show this year. This is not a good quarterback class, right? I think that if you're the Texans, I mean, you're already in full-on rebuild mode. It's so weird how we don't even talk about Deshaun Watson. I mean, what's going on with that? Are they going to get picks for him or what? Really weird situation, how he's just kind of been swept under the rug. And we don't even talk about it anymore. But you have Taylor and Mills to go into next season with. And I don't think you address the quarterback position right away. You try and build your team up, right? The way that Cleveland's built up, the way the Colts are built up. You build it right. You build it strong. You build it through the draft. You build it inside out. You start on the line. You win football at the line of scrimmage. As much as they want to change the rules, I mean, until something drastically changes up front, you still win games in the NFL at the line of scrimmage. The teams need to start doing that, and the Texans are one of them that just needs the complete rebuild. But what my point is, the performance from Mills yesterday made me think you can at least go another year with this guy, right? You're not like the Browns or the Colts where you're sacrificing really, a championship level roster if you don't have the good QB play. You're not there yet in your rebuild. You can afford to let Mills develop because you're not throwing away this window that you have. You know what you're doing right now? You're building the frame to put the window in, right? There's no window for this team right now. So I thought that was something that they needed. That was good for the Texans to see. On the Chargers side, man, what a disappointing defeat. I don't know. You just can't lose this game. I don't know if they look past them. I don't know if they simply can't stop the run. I was really high on the Chargers. Title was really high on the Chargers so far this season. But I'm not backing a team that can't back the run anymore now. And that's not saying that they're going to win because how do they stop the run? They usually get that big lead, right? But there's so much pressure on Herbert, Allen, and these guys to get it done early. Maybe when Austin Eckler comes back, right, the offense turns around. But to me, Austin Eckler is not that DeAndre Hopkins guy. Or even like a Christian McCaffrey, where he's going to turn the whole team around and all their problems are going to be solved once he comes back. So I'm really worried if I'm a Chargers fan, if I'm in the Chargers front office, and I'm really interested to see what Brandon Staley does here. Of course, right now it looks like an early exit. So an early exit, you're not ready to get rid of the guy, but you need to address these problems. I think he's going to be a great coach. I think this is just something that caught him by surprise. Richie Small says, David Culley's done a great job coaching the Texans this year. Yeah, they potentially could have gone 0-17 with that roster, right? Especially if you tell me Taylor's out. It was one of the worst rosters in the league. They sent away a couple people in the during the season, right, to make the roster even thinner. They're obviously going for a high draft pick and going for the rebuild. Sucks because Bill O'Brien gave a bunch of their picks away trying to save his job, which is, of course, the danger of having a lame duck GM. But there you go. I think that David Culley has done a good job with the team this year. I think that with some of these guys that are really good leaders, really good teachers, really good developers, we want to hammer them because some of his in-game decision-making hasn't been good. But I do not like when everything you do on the coach is just based on in-game. This isn't NFL Madden, right? It's not just how good you are, it's how well you coach in-game. There's teaching, there's preparation, there's holding the team accountable and running things day to day during the week. I think Culley's definitely deserved an opportunity to come back and work with a better roster. The next game that we will talk about, the Rams got it done. I was pretty happy about this one because I know a lot of people like the Vikings are catching points at home, and that's an old it's an old reliable, right? An old reliable is taking the points at home with a pretty good team, and we know the Vikings play better at home. But boy, I was happy. This is another one where, I wanted to pat myself on the back. It played out just like I thought. The Rams got the early lead, with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, they were able to do enough. And you put Cousins in those pressure situations. That's where you want to be. The guy is a front runner here. Once they got behind, I really felt confident the Rams would be able to get it done. And I thought it was a great win for a Rams team that looked kind of weak during the middle of the season, but you got to say they're peaking at the right time. People keep saying Minnesota's a proverbial team that no one's going to want to play in the playoffs. If they make it, I'll play them. I don't care, man. They got those great fantasy options, right? Because they have awesome wide receivers. And, of course, they missed Dalvin Cook. Would he have been the difference? I don't think so. I think the Rams win this game regardless. So, to me, Minnesota, we'll see if they're heading for a shakeup. I'll be really surprised. I think Mike Zimmer's a good coach. I really do. I think that a team will be happy. He'll be one of those guys that gets hired right away if he moves on. I don't know if they want to bring Cousins back. I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't be afraid to bottom out personally, but a lot of teams are. They don't want that 4-12 year because what happens if you're like, the Lions or the Raiders and you start the rebuild and then you just never make the playoffs again, So I think that's a lot of owners are scared of that. So we'll see what the Vikings do in the offseason. But this one just kind of showed me losing this game at home in the manner that they did. Just that I don't really expect a lot from this team in the playoffs. Maybe they surprise me. They have the weapons to do so. But, I talked about winning the game at the line of scrimmage. Not impressed with their offensive line. Defensive line struggling with injuries. Secondary's better than we expected going into the season. But still, I don't think that they can just get it done on their own. Giants and the Eagles. I don't know. Okay. The Giants beat the Eagles. The Giants shouldn't even be playing anymore. Like, why do they even put them on TV? I was so pissed on it. So I was at my buddy's house and they have that direct TV feed where you can watch all 8 of them at once. It's like, you should just be able to take the Giants off of that because I don't know what's going on there. That game wasn't even fun to watch. there was nothing good really to say about it. If you guys have something good in the chat about that game, I'll touch on it. Kirk Cousins is not the answer. Yeah, I agree, and you gave him that much money. I just am so surprised they should make a push for Watson. Yeah, I mean, there's so many teams that would love him, and he could change everything for him if he's eligible. If someone knows, let me know. I just don't even know what's going on. Like, is there a chance he comes back next year? Is he just done? Like, it's just so crazy. And also, NFL is not like the NBA where they can take a lot of time off and then come back. I wonder how much rest he's going to show. The Buccaneers beat the Panthers. My only real takeaway from this game is I wonder if makes like college coaches less attractive, right? We've seen Urban Meyer completely strike out. Matt Rule doesn't appear to be much better, and his post-game I know they just love to pick little tidbits, and let's be honest, I didn't watch the whole post-game conference. I just took the tidbit, but it wasn't a very intelligent thing to say. I don't know what Matt Rule was going for by saying it's going to take a full 7 years. That doesn't seem to inspire any confidence in me. We kind of had high hopes with this team going into the season. We thought, Adam Gase was the problem, not Sam Darnold, right? Nope, Sam Darnold was the problem. Oh, we got this cool XFL. Okay. Just like when the G League players come up in the NBA and they're lost, right? That you do good in the XFL, you're not ready. And then Cam comes back and he makes like one good play, jumps all over TV, and he hasn't really done much since. So I think it's really tough to downgrade Matt Rule because so much of the NFL is who your quarterback is, and they made the wrong decisions at quarterback. Now, if you want to say, well, he made those decisions, he had Teddy and he chose to move on from him. Yeah, that's fine. At least they were swinging for the fences, though. Be interesting to see what they do. One other thing that I was listening to about on Matt Rule is he has one of those offsetting contracts, right? So you'd say, oh, well, they're not going to fire me. He only has 7 years left. But as soon as he gets hired, like to a college, which he would, the team would only owe like whatever the difference is, right? So it's like, I don't know what he's owed. Let's say he makes $10 million and he got signed for $8 million a year. Then the Panthers only have to pay him like $2 million a year for the last remaining years of the contract. So I don't think it's as far-fetched as they can move, as some think, is that they can move on from him. I personally wouldn't do it. Let's give him a chance with a real NFL-level quarterback. You could say Teddy Bridgewater's that, but if you've watched the show, you know that I'm not necessarily high on Teddy either. So the afternoon games, the Bears, they got the win. So I was with my buddies and, big Raiders fans were all watching the game. So my buddy kept full screening the Raiders game rather than going, for the box mix so we can see all of them at the same time. And I kept saying, they're like, oh, the Bears are going to get blown away. Bears are going to get tossed up, right? And I'm like, watch out, man. At this point, Foles is better for the offense than Fields or Dalton, because my idea is they're all making mistakes, right? So Foles is going to make mistakes. They're all making mistakes. I felt that he gave him the most big play potential, and it just felt that way too. And even after sitting on the bench all year, right, the guy's got a confidence, and I felt like the team believed in him. So Matt Nagy's still got to go. That team's just a disaster, and most of all, they have to fire Ryan Pace. Let's get Justin Fields in here with the new starter, new coach. New system. And most of all, get these guys an offensive line. I really just, the other thing is like, okay, let's be honest. Nick Foles isn't doing that against a good defense. Seattle has one of the worst defenses I've seen in the NFL this year, right? They got like 2 good players and everyone else is below average. And you just watch them. They can't cover. They can't win the battle at the line of scrimmage. They miss tackles. It's just not a good defensive team. Pete Carroll, man, one of my favorites. I've always defended him even when people were down on him. And that goes back, because I'll admit he makes bad in-game decisions sometimes, more than say most like top level coaches. But regardless, I still felt that he was a great teacher, set a great tempo at practice, always had the team going in the right direction. Maybe it's time for a change. Wouldn't be surprised if they moved Russell Wilson out, because the amount of draft picks you can get for Russell Wilson, that starts your rebuild, right? And I think this team is ready for a rebuild. Look at the rest of the NFC West, man. You're not going to compete with just a couple free agents. And you can't you need to overhaul both sides of your line. It's like 9 players. You're not getting that in one offseason. I say they love to move on. Richie says, I'd love Byron Leftwich to coach the Bears, but I think he ends up in Jacksonville. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Jacksonville would be a good fit, and I'll be interested to see how good a coach he was. And it was so awesome, and I'll always remember is him getting carried by his two teammates when he was at Marshall, right? I mean, so even if probably these new kids probably don't even remember it, it's still one of those things when they find out about it, like you have so much respect for Leftwich. So I'd love to see him get a shot too. Hey, there will be an opening at my favorite team of Las Vegas. Oh, Scott Mack makes a great point. The Seahawks do not have a first-round pick. Also, with the Jamal Adams trade. And guys, I got great news for everybody. The technical difficulties in Pittsburgh have been resolved. The Yinzers were around his house knocking out the internet, but he fought off all the Yinzers. And in the honor of Mike Tomlin, he is here. What is up, Tyler? I don't know if you've seen anything of what I said so far. I can give you a couple of the hot takes if you want to respond to them. How was your Christmas weekend?
It was pretty good. No technical difficulties on this side. I was just staring at the back of my eyelids too long.
Oh, I was trying to cover for you, Tyler.
It's all good. We ain't got to lie to him.
All right. Transparency from Tyler there. You got to appreciate it.
Yeah, all right. I haven't heard much. You can give me a quick rundown back on what we talked about.
I'm just going to give you my hottest of hot takes on all of them, right? All right, Bengals and Ravens, nothing hot. Bills, Patriots, nothing hot. Lions, Falcons, Jaguars, Jets, nothing hot. You know what? I would start, Saturday is where I had them. So my first one was just, I got to trash Baker for a while. I mean, he lost in that game, right? I mean, You can't watch the game. I just don't see how they bring him back. And this has been a running theme on the show, but it's probably because for us to agree is kind of boring. This is something we might be on opposite sides on. Are you ready to jump over on my side and get rid of the Baker and the candlestick maker in Cleveland?
I'd say yes if it was a different team, but I think they'll franchise tag him.
Yeah, that's
just because it's the Browns. He's the first quarterback to win for that franchise in like 20 years.
Yeah,
they're not going to let him walk away.
I mean, at this point, he's just almost like an overpaid Jimmy G, though. Wouldn't he be? Because Jimmy G will be on the market, and he's not going to. He'll probably sign for half that, right?
Maybe he's getting $25 million a year.
Yeah, but isn't his contract up at the end of the year?
No, they'd have to buy him out. Or like restructure it or something.
Okay, well, I was confused there. Okay, so that was that. I wanted to trash him on that. On the Colts Cardinals, we thought the Colts were good, and I said the Cardinals, the only way you handicap this team is if DeAndre Hopkins is playing, and that while it's easy to count them out now, if Hopkins comes back, this team could actually still make noise. Would you agree with me, or are you seeing other flaws in this team, mainly on the defensive end that I'm not giving them credit for?
Yeah, I mean, they can't stop the run worth of shit. They're not as bad as the Chargers stopping the run, but they're pretty close. So
yeah,
I think they're going to have some troubles in the playoffs. I've always marked them as the fraud team in the NFC, and I think their true colors are starting to show. But without Hopkins, it's really showing. But I think they're still going to have troubles in the playoffs, regardless if he comes back.
All right, yeah, and I talked about the Panthers, Matt Rule. I mean, what would you make of him so far? I mean, they can't get rid of him this early, right?
I mean, they got rid of Joe Brady, and now they're just playing the game of let's put Cam Newton in and Sam Darnold in. So, I mean, since they got rid of Joe Brady, haven't they had the worst offense in the league statistically for those 3 games? Yeah. And they put up 6 points Sunday. So we said that last week. There's no way they could have got worse only putting up 6, right? And that's all they put up this week was 6. They put Darnold in, let him drive him all the way on the field just to put Cam back in the red zone. So can't be running an offense like that.
I wanted to go ahead and just put a cork in the Vikings as well. My take was that, they just can't win on both sides of the line. And, people say no one's going to want them in the playoffs. I'd want to play them in the playoffs. I think they kind of suck.
As long as that playoff game's not at 1:00, you're going to crush Kirk Cousins.
So. I mean, it was 1:00 and he still, once he got behind, they were just done.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think they're done.
Do you want to talk smack about the Chargers? I did some already, but I think they deserve it.
I mean, they're just the Chargers we've always known. They blow games that they shouldn't. We blamed the coach last year, Anthony Lynn, when in reality it's just still the team because
at least Anthony Lynn can stop the run, right?
Yeah.
Can't
really shit on them much. We knew they were going to be like this. 1 week they look like Super Bowl contenders. The next week they look like they're bottom 5.
Yeah, I'm pretty much out on them. And we were laughing. Of course, I was telling everyone watching the show so far that, I was watching with my buddies, Raiders fans, right? And we were just sitting there because that was the morning slot. The Raiders didn't play yet. I was like, I can't believe they're opening the door for us, because we had already pretty much gone, season's over. We're not going to make the playoffs. And then we're like, you lose to the Texans, right? Because of course in our head, driving to watch the games, that's a win for the Chargers, right? We're talking about, are they going to cover 13? For them to lose that game when they needed it so bad. I mean, you look at how jumbled that AFC playoff is. I mean, they basically just opened the door and let 5 teams in to their playoff position. I mean, it's just unbelievable how bad that actual performance was. I also said that on the Texans side that I felt that Mills played well enough that if I'm the Texans, I try and rebuild my team like the Browns or like the Colts. And then, I can upgrade from him later. But I think that I'm okay going into next year with them. It's not like I have a Super Bowl window anyways, right? That I'm ruining. So
I would keep him. I would keep him for sure. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah. Richie Smalls says, was Jimmy Johnson the last college coach to be successful in the NFL?
Pete Carroll.
Yeah, Pete Carroll was. I think there's been more. Harbaugh.
Yeah, Harbaugh got to a Super Bowl. He just didn't win it.
Yeah, but I'll as a Raiders fan,
you'll take that.
Hey, you'll get Jim Harbaugh and you'll make the Super Bowl and you might lose. I mean, it's like, well, it's better than being irrelevant every week and not even getting talked about on these NFL rundown style shows. So, so there definitely have been some. But I'll tell you what, if I'm watching this season and I'm an offensive coordinator, I feel like this season just raised my stock, because I'd rather much have an NFL guy with NFL experience than bring a guy from college. Right.
Oh, yeah. Them couple guys in Buffalo and the couple guys in KC are looking at big paychecks this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, even as a Raiders fan, I want the old Eagles coach, Doug Peterson, man. I think he's still got some stuff left in him. I'm surprised that he's still been on the sideline so long. Maybe he gets down there with Trevor in Jacksonville as well. So, all right, Tyler, that pretty much cut. Oh, it's one that I actually forgot to say. So, like I write my questions and then, especially for other teams, I listen to podcasts and kind of grab their takes so I can use them, so we have takes on the show. Uh-huh. And dude, I literally wrote this one down and they said it on the show. I was going to say, is Saquon Barkley the next Kajana Carter? And they said it on the Yahoo pod. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so, because I was thinking there's no way that anyone else is going to make that comparison, right?
The next who?
So there's this guy out of Penn State in the 90s, Kajana Carter. He was just so awesome, right? And he looks like Saquon, right? Just the highlights at Penn State were just ridiculous. He had a knee injury, and I think he got drafted by the Bengals, if I remember right. He had a knee injury his rookie year, and he just never was the same. I mean, Saquon looked normal out there. I mean, is he going to be like one of the biggest busts? Like, basically, I was going to say since Kajana Carter, but I mean, I'm sure you can think of some other running backs like who was the 4th round pick? What was that dude's name? Trent Richardson.
Oh, Trent Richardson. Yeah, he went 3rd overall in the entire draft.
Yeah, I mean, is that what we're looking at here with Saquon Barkley?
I mean, I think it's possible, but I got to see him behind a decent offensive line first. Like, this offensive line for the Giants is bad.
Great point.
Like, me and you can get pressure on the quarterback behind these guys.
Yeah, and what's so funny, and we'll just go ahead and bounce around, right? Because you jumped in here a little later. Jonathan Taylor, MVP, right? He doesn't look like an MVP with no offensive line. That's why it's like so crazy to try and give that running backs those awards. Like, they're so line dependent. Now, it's not like he looked bad, right? But I know he snowflaked on DraftKings with the expectations that he had. Now, are we going to blame him? I think by the end of that game, they had all 5 of the starters out, right? Because they had 2 out to start the game, and then they lost 3 during the game.
Yeah, they were still opening up holes like it was their job.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't the same, and Taylor didn't do that well. So that's why, I like when we say like running backs never win MVP, I think it's because they're so offensive line defended. Richie says Dallas would have been a better team with Saquon. Yeah, interesting. I mean, they overdrafted their own running back as well. Like, if you're the Cowboys right now and you could get out of that Zeke contract scot-free, I think you would. But we'll see. They seem to love him. And we'll talk about the Cowboys here in a bit. Tyler, let's talk about my favorite team getting it done against the Broncos. But let's be honest. With Drew Lock out there, the Broncos suck. And when he actually did make good throws, like they didn't catch him, right? Nope. So either they couldn't get open, and when they finally did get open, they couldn't make the catch. As a Raiders fan, it was cool to get the win. It was still just cool to still be alive, still be relevant. But let's be honest, man, that team was terrible, and they did nothing that would make me have any hope that they would do anything but get blown out in a playoff level game. I mean, the offense, they got no juice. I mean, I guess if Waller comes back, right, things get better. Josh Jacobs is another one reminding me of Barkley. Hey, he had that great rookie year. Now he's like average. I want Kenny Drake back. What did you think of the Broncos and the Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, this was just an ugly game, like all around. Under was definitely the bet.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, all the Raiders had to do was just get to 17 because we knew Denver couldn't put up that many points with Drew Lock under center. And they did their job. They got right to 17, and Denver got to 13. They just couldn't score again to take the game over. So Raiders did their job. But just like you said, this team squeaks in the playoffs. They're getting punched right in the mouth first round.
But we haven't made the playoffs for so long. I think the fans will be happy with it. I think it's enough to at least bring Carr back. I think the coach.
Yeah, if you guys make the playoffs, he's back.
Yeah, and I'm not against that because you weren't here for the whole thing, right? But so many teams we said need a quarterback, right? I said the Browns need a new quarterback, the Broncos need a new quarterback. Haven't got you yet. We'll do that next. The Steelers need a new quarterback, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a market for these guys. I guess if you say you want to plunge into the rebuild, but you can't blow the draft picks like you did with the Khalil Mack picks, right? Josh Jacobs, give me a break. So let's talk about those Steelers, though, right? The Yinzers were not happy yesterday, right? I mean, they got absolutely dominated. Big Ben's done. And I'm going to be a Yinzer. All the people that are calling for Tomlin's head, dude, nobody can win with that quarterback. It's the same thing I just said about Matt Rule. Like, I don't know. Let's give Tomlin a real quarterback before we're ready to run him out of town. Is there anyone who watched that game and really thought that Tomlin was the issue? I mean, the quarterback play was like night and day. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, and I'll throw it over to you and see if I can think of a better one. But what did you think of the Chiefs blowing out the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers sat in zone defense the whole game and just tried to sit back and cut off all the deep plays. And the Chiefs said, all right, we'll one up you. We'll just throw everything underneath, drive it down the field, and then just punch it in. And that's what they did the whole game. And then their defense is playing so well that they just pushed the Steelers' offensive line right out of the way and just attacked Ben. But, I mean, partially agree with you on the Tomlin thing. Nobody's winning with that quarterback out there. But at the same time, this team is so undisciplined. Like, part of it is his fault, Spread.
All right. Well, this will be fun for us to continue because I think it's going to be the biggest story around the Steelers going in the offseason. We talked about it with the Vikings. I feel like the Steelers are the same way, right? They might make the playoffs. They're just going to get smoked. Like, they're not going to do anything.
They're getting smoked in the playoffs.
They're almost like the jobbers in AEW. They're just out there to make the stars look good, right? They're just going to make whatever team looks good so we get hyped about them going into the divisional playoff rounds. I mean, it's just, I don't know. So I think that Tomlin's future is going to be up for debate. I think that they make a mistake letting him go. But I think that a lot of Pittsburgh would disagree with me right now. So
they're going to keep Tomlin, Spread. They've had 3 head coaches in like the last 50 years.
And I think that's just badass. Like, that's one of the most badass stats.
It's just something they just don't do. Like,
and
he would have to do something like devastating to get fired.
Yeah, and he's not sending off no John Gruden emails. So I think they're making the right team to bring it back. Brad Hunt, he's in the chat. He says, how about those Cowboys? So I'll tell you what, Tyler, I was ready to come on here, right, and just rant because, like I told you, I went to watch the games with my buddies yesterday, and, Eagles fan, one of my buddies is a Bears fan, Raiders fan. So all our teams won. We're all happy. I'm heading home, for the evening because I got to be up early. I can't stay there and chill all night, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to dig in and watch some Sunday night NFL, right? And, of course, the football team does not show up, right? I mean, it's just a blowout. And as much as I want to trash Washington, right? Like I trashed the Giants, like I trashed the Jets, like I trashed the Jaguars. I really just felt like the Cowboys played one of the best football games of the season. I mean, it was just, I know they obviously could have done more. I know it could have been more competitive, but I came away from that just wanting to upgrade the Cowboys, not necessarily so much as downgrade Washington. What are your thoughts?
I've been preaching it. If there was one team, their defense was playing great. If their offense woke back up, they are going to be a serious problem in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. If this offense is going to play like this, Spread, they're going to win the Super Bowl.
You think that? So you stole my question, and I guess you already answered it, but I'm going to repeat it. You think that they can win in Lambeau?
Yes. With that offensive firepower and the way that defense is playing, you stop him a few times, you put points on the board. We've seen him rattle in them big games before. He's also walking on one foot. Did you see him on Saturday?
Who, Rodgers?
Every time he got hit, he got up limping because of that fractured toe.
Yeah.
Dallas is going to send just as much pressure as Cleveland, maybe more.
I mean, they were just making unbelievable plays. Like, I was so pissed when Lawrence made that interception, but like, come on, like, are
but
you
just thinking how stacked that defense is at this point? The defensive line's healthy. You have Parsons and the other linebackers just roaming in the middle of the field. And
Vander Esch, he's a stud.
Yeah, and then you have Diggs, Keon O'Neal, and them guys in the backside just lurking to get picks. So good luck beating this team in the playoffs.
All right. Well, so I see you agree with me there. Cool, Tyler. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad you're able to join and get some thoughts. Now, was there anything that you want to talk about that I might have just glossed over as unimportant?
Other than the Bills getting the job done against New England in New England and them coming out, like we said, they're going to come out with their hair on fire and try and get that lead. And they did. And then they forced Mac Jones to try and beat him through the air. And he threw 2 picks spread. That's going to be the blueprint to beat this team in the playoffs. Just get ahead of them. Don't let them run the ball down your throat.
Yeah, I mean, that's with like 4 or 5 teams. I'd say the Niners are the same way. There's a lot of teams like that. So really, really interesting. Let's talk about tonight. The Saints are going to play the Dolphins. This should be a very interesting game. Both teams are 7-7, so both teams still alive for the playoffs. Dolphins, of course, on that great win streak. Totals 37.5. Wow.
This is going to be ugly spread. I believe you have Ian Book at quarterback for the Saints.
Yeah, Ian Book.
The wildest part about this game, though, from 1-7 through week 8 to winning this game tonight puts you in the wild card spot for the Dolphins. They could flip their whole season around right here.
Yeah.
8 in a row. They win here. They're in the playoff picture again. So I think they get the job done. I think they do just enough. Now, I'm not going to take the -3 because I could see this being a 1-point win. So I'll probably find an anytime touchdown to parlay it with the money line. And looking at that, I mean, Duke Johnson was their guy last week. He should get some looks in that red zone again. Duke Johnson to score and Miami wins is +400 spread. I love that.
Wow. I got to find one of those.
Because they're just saying touchdowns are just going to be so, like, there's just going to be no touchdowns in this game with a total of 37. All the touchdown scorer props are plus money. Alvin Kamara +115. Jalen Waddle +200. Duke Johnson +260. Devontae Parker +300. Like, everyone's got value tonight in the touchdown market.
What do you think of Ian Book? Now, normally I don't know much about these college players, but I bet on Notre Dame a lot last year. I probably watched 5 or 6 of their games. I didn't think he was that bad as a quarterback prospect. You know so much more about college than I do, though. And especially one thing that you're really good at, and I'd say in both the NBA and the NFL, is seeing how these players translate. Sometimes I get overexcited by performances against college kids when the kids just don't have the athletic skill sets. What do you think of Ian Book, and how do you think he'll do in his debut tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he was all right at college. He just rubbed me as one of them guys that maybe I was really good in college, not going to be as good in the NFL. But I could see him putting up some kind of numbers. Now he's just going in interviews saying, I just got to go out there and play. And I'm not big on Notre Dame quarterbacks either, spread. I'd much rather have Simeon out there, or even a Taysom Hill that can barely throw the
if
ball.
you're telling me you'd rather have Simeon, that's all I need to hear. I'm just going to bet the Dolphins right now then.
Yeah.
Because Simeon's terrible.
Simeon's better than this kid.
I would say that Simeon is one of the 10 worst backups in the league. I'm talking backups, not even starting quarterbacks. I'm
to give you an idea how good Ian Book is, spread, the Saints called Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers to see if they wanted to come back.
Okay. So
that's all you need to know about Ian Book.
I mean, I'm just placing this Miami bet right now, then. I mean, I'll just lay it then. How are they even?
One preseason appearance, he went 9 for 16 for 116 yards with an interception.
Yeah, I mean, preseason is a little different than a fired-up Dolphins team, right? And we like this Dolphins defense. In fact, we were high on the Dolphins coming into the season, saying that they had a better chance to challenge Buffalo this year, right? And a lot of the big reasons, right? You know, Tua is cool. Jalen Waddle, great pick, right? No Jamar Chase, but pretty close. And we really just like the defense. So we love the secondary. We love their ability to get pressure. And, of course, Brian Flores, the Belichick disciple, we thought would have the team prepared. So that's what he's doing there. After having this talk with you, I placed the bet, Tyler. I did it while you were breaking it down. I just took Miami -3. I know that you like that other one. What are your other thoughts on this game? Because I'm getting on Bet Online. I did that one on Bookmaker. See if Bet Online will give me that ability to parlay the touchdown with the win. Talk to me about props this game.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this one, Tua's rushing yards are set at 9.5. Now he's cleared out 1, 2, 3 times this year, and then in other games he hasn't ran that well. You got to also remember the dude wasn't healthy half the year, so he wouldn't run the ball. Now the dude's pretty much 100% healthy. I'm taking that over 9.5 rushing yards. He's not afraid to tuck it and go, so he will run the ball tonight. I like that over. And then outside of that spread, I really don't see much on this board that intrigues me. Maybe Alvin Kamara over 27.5 receiving yards, because that kid's just going to dump the ball off. He's not going to take deep shots. They're going to tell him to get the ball in the best player's hands, and that's Kamara's. So I could see dump offs all game. And then maybe even his rushing yards at 56.5, because that's a bit.
I was thinking an interesting way to attack it too would be the dump offs, because I felt that gave you a better chance to get Kamara in space. I already think that Miami's going to put 8 in the box, right? I mean, if Book is the guy that you say he is,
they're gonna.
Why would I not do that?
8 in the box,
right? And not let Kamara get there. Let Book beat me, and then so what I'm thinking is, you try and let those guys get open, but then you don't want to make mistakes. The last thing you want to do is come out and throw like 4 interceptions, like Peterman did, right? You remember that debut?
That was bad.
I mean, or Baker Mayfield this Saturday when he threw 3 interceptions in the first half. So you don't want to do that. I got a question for you about Tua, because we were talking about this yesterday. I was hanging out with my buddies. Actually, it was pretty fun. I should do that more often. It gives me a lot of good content for the show. And he and I both like Tua coming out of college, right? We thought that maybe the hip injury, well, actually he thought, and I'm just stealing it because I agreed with him, but he thought that maybe the hip injury had taken away a little bit of Tua's ability to throw the deep ball. But the accuracy and the underneath is still there. Would you agree, or do you think that maybe we're being a little impatient and give him some time and he's going to be able to throw him? Like we were actually specifically referencing the championship game where he came in for Hurts and he threw that deep ball to Devontae Smith, and it was one of the best deep balls I've seen in college football in the past 10 years. What do you think about Tua's ability to throw the deep ball? How much do you think the hip injury matters, and do you think he'll ever get back to that player?
I think he's getting back to there now. I think it's just one of them injuries. Everyone thought it was going to be all 1 year. He'll be back to normal. He'll be fine. Well, it's been 2 to 3 years, and the kid's just now getting reacclimated to how he should be playing. He even said it in training camp before the season started. This is the first season he felt 100% coming into it. He had no problems with his ribs, no problems with his hip. Well, then he gets a finger injury and he cracks a few more ribs. So he dealt with that. I think he'll be fine. Just like we had the conversation, I think it was last week. It was, would you rather have Tua or Mac Jones? A lot of us picked Tua because it's still that potential there. The dude still has an arm. I think he has a stronger arm than Mac Jones, and I still think he has that deep ball potential. He's just not getting the opportunities to throw it either. He's playing real smart with the ball. He's keeping it all underneath. And when he does throw the ball deep, it's still a wide receiver that's wide open. And he's not throwing anything into double coverage, triple coverage down there.
All right, I want to double back to a question Nick DiPalmo asked at the beginning of the show. He said, who do you think is getting the Lattimore treatment tonight? And I think, another way to question that, right, is if you're playing fantasy or DFS, do you play Waddle tonight, or are we worried that they just take Waddle away with Lattimore, and then maybe you think Parker and some of those other guys get more options or targets?
I could see them putting him on Waddle and forcing him to go to Devontae Parker more. But Devontae Parker is technically listed as the number 1 on this team, so...
But there's no defensive coordinator in the world that thinks he's the number 1, right? I mean, all right. So you think that maybe Waddle would not be as good an option?
The only other thing I'd bet in this game spread would be Tua's anytime touchdown at about plus 500. They get down that red zone. Duke Johnson can't punch it in. Tua's going to keep it and try and get it himself.
I think that's a great play as well. So, boy, you got 2 big money plays for the people then, right? We only need 1 to cash, and we can pat ourselves on the back for the next NFL rundown. If you guys missed it, Tyler's 2 plays. So, first of all, I just like sides. I like totals. Tyler talked me into it. If they wanted Phillip Rivers back rather than let this Book kid play, if Tyler thinks that Simeon's better, I'm laying the 3 with Miami. Tyler has gone with Duke Johnson, anytime touchdown, parlayed with the Dolphins money line. That's plus 400. He threw out Tua anytime touchdown at plus 500. I think those are 2 great bets. probably a little sharper than me, just laying 110 on the Dolphins -3. But that's what you're here for. I host the show, give my thoughts, and Tyler finds the true edges. So, Tyler, thank you for joining me today. I'm glad you were able to make it a little bit late. But I'm sure the people were happy too, as fun as it is for me to just ramble for 20 minutes straight. They definitely love to hear your perspective as well. Remember, this show is brought to you by RunPureBets.com. Head over to Run Pure Bets. Use the promo code BETS25 off to become a member. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Tyler, do you have anything else to say to the people before we're getting out of here?
Just don't go too far. We'll be back at 3:30 with an NBA rundown.
Yeah, that gives you an hour and a half to go ahead and get ready. And I'm going to switch into NBA mode myself. I'm probably going to have to change my shirt. This is a nice football shirt, nice and thick. Let me go throw on Steph Curry jersey or something, walk around the house for an hour, and we will be back. Gas Station Stushy says, do not get too optimistic about Tua. His apparent improvement is due to a change to RPO offensive approach by the Dolphins coaching staff. Tyler, do you have a response to that?
I mean, they built the offense around him similar to how Baltimore built it around Lamar Jackson. So it was like when last year, when everyone was giving him shit for looking bad, when he came in for Fitzpatrick, he was in a Fitzpatrick-built offense that wants you to throw the ball 50 yards down the field every play. So it's like you kind of got to build your team to your quarterback's needs to get it to work. Like if Baltimore was built in a high-powered offense, Lamar wouldn't look half good he does.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. And I hate when teams try and get a running guy and make him a pocket guy.
And just like Baltimore's done with their backups, they made their backups the same way Lamar plays. Now look at them. They can plug them in and the team just keeps going. Their offense doesn't come to a screeching halt.
Uh-oh, that means they might be taking Mariota as a backup next year. Yep. All right, thank you, everybody, for watching. We will be back in an hour and a half and Run Pure.